And it's incredible because when you realize that you are your own blocker, right?
Yes.
But you're also the
Yes.
blocker of your employees and your
Absolutely.
customers. Once I
Yes.
moved myself from me, everything blossomed.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I was the roadblock. I'm like,
Yes.
what the fuck?
Yes.
And by the
Absolutely.
way, I grew exponentially
Right. Right.
because now I'm achieving through others, and I'm giving the privilege and the honors for people to become themselves. Welcome to the Break Free podcast. I am your host, David Mancilla. Today, we have with us somebody that I learned to respect within the first 15 minutes that I met him. Kenny, brother, welcome to the show.
David, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm super excited to be here with you and everybody.
Awesome, awesome. Brother, can you share with us where do you live right now and your full name and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, man. Kenny Chapman. I live north of Phoenix in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I run a company that coaches and consults and trains blue collar industry entrepreneurs. So the company is the Blue Collar Success Group. We focus on skilled trades.
Beautiful, beautiful. Um, so I know your soul, I know your heart. I don't want to jump right into that because we have to give people context, but I'm so excited to start asking questions. So
Fair enough.
before we do that, let's take a trip back in time. Where were you in high school, in your last year of high school? What was in your mind? Because that year is a decisive year for everybody's life because you come into a fork that you never had before. When you were born, you were
Mm,
taught to go to school, middle school. Now you're in high school. Now you're really deciding what to do with the next phase of your life. What
yes.
happened to you back then?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate that I was a bad student in school, but I was a very good baseball player, and I was able to get a small scholarship to go play baseball in college. So in my senior year in high school, I was going to be a professional baseball player and marry my high school sweetheart and ride off into the sunset. And thank goodness none of those things manifested for me because I joke with my wife now. I can't imagine if I was stuck on the road playing 160 games a year and being away from my family as a pro ball player. I doesn't sound good at all now, but I thought I had my life, kind of planned out. And then really defining moment was one semester into college. I dropped out of college. I partied my way out of it and didn't perform as a player. And that was when the defining moments really started kicking in, and I had no idea what I was going to do.
Wow. So you were in college, you had a career defined, and all of a sudden you hit a roadblock
Yeah,
and something else happened. Isn't that interesting that when crises come into our life is what makes us take the right choice to the next level in our life, isn't it?
it is. It is. Call me crazy, but I don't believe in such a thing as a bad decision. I don't. I believe that everything that happens in our lives is truly here to serve us and give us a gift. Now, that being said, it's not always easy to embrace that when the world throws you what you think is a curveball or something you didn't sign up for, which is generally all it is. If you didn't desire it and it comes into your area of being, then you feel like, oh, I didn't want this, rather than leaning in and accepting it. And I didn't learn that for many years. So I lived in a lot of pain for a lot of my life, resisting. But I always took massive action. So what the world called mistakes, I made a lot of them. Now I understand they're just experiences. And so I was doing a lot of things, process of elimination to find happiness. And none of it existed outside of me, brother. None of it.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I turned 50 a couple of weeks ago, and when I look back, everything needed to happen for me to become the person that I am today. So I have
Mm,
no regrets. I can actually openly say, I have zero regrets. Every downturn, every setback, every backstabbing, every people that stole money from me, everything needed to happen to become the person that I am today. You know?
yes. Yes. And that's a big awakening, and welcome to the club, my friend. I got you by almost a couple of years, but and so many of our friends are saying they're old, 50. We're just getting started, baby. But,
Yes.
I think that's a level of awareness that we have to get to in self-awareness, where as long as I have regret, guilt, shame, as long as I'm carrying those lower vibration energies with me, and I'm blaming, I'm not going to realize the gift that exists in those things. When somebody wronged me, or quote unquote wronged me, or I was in I'm in my third marriage. I'm very, very blessed for that. My parents were married 11 times between them. And I was like, whoa, hang on, this marriage thing. And and now it took me a couple times to figure out who I was within a marriage. And now I've been very blessed with the lovely Christy. But I think it is one of those things that you have to kind of measure forward by looking back, and see where did I learn a lesson. Well, if you want to take away one of those lessons, you can change the entire course of your life. So you can't do that. You don't get to play that way. It's not how it works.
Exactly, brother. So what did you do? You hit the wall. No more professional baseball. No more college. What happened?
Yeah. So, my father was an outlaw biker, and I was headed to kind of follow his path. And I dropped out of college, and I started working construction, and I started selling drugs. And I was always, one thing I always did was I played full out. Dad taught me to have passion. And so I was good at my craft. And so that got me in jail very quickly. So in 19, I found myself in a jail cell, and had what the great Les Brown taught me, I could now call the I've had it moment, where I was sitting there at 19, dropped out of college, busted selling drugs, no idea what to do. And I just realized I had to change my life. And for me, that defining moment was joining the United States Army. And I went in the military, begrudgingly. When I used to struggle when people would say, "Thank you for your service." I'm like, I didn't have very many options. And I used to almost be uncomfortable, but a lot of my buddies ended up in, following the same path that they were on. So I guess I did have choices. I took a different one. So that was one of the ones that was a pivot point in my life. And I learned some discipline, and I really started understanding what it was to take responsibility and accountability for my actions.
That's amazing. How long did you stay in the army for?
I was only in for 3 years. I did the first Gulf War, so I got to experience a lot of military in that short period of time. But I didn't want to go in, but I had a judge that said, "Hey, you've got you're going to be on probation until you turn 21, or bring me enlistment papers." This is in '89. I didn't know that stuff happened. I heard about it in the 40s and 50s. And so I was like, when I went to the recruiter, I said, "What's the shortest amount of time I can join? And how quick can you get me out of here?" And they're like, 2 years infantry. I'm like, I've watched a lot of movies about infantry. I don't know what else you got. They're like, 3 years truck driver. You're out of here in 30 days. I'm like, sign me up. So I became a truck driver in the Army for 3 years. And that was my path.
Amazing. It's funny. I follow patterns because I'm a computer scientist, so I can always define the pattern. And a lot of successful entrepreneurs like you and I, we have the military as the common denominator, as the pattern. I did 2 years of military school when I was a teenager, and that changed my life. I still I cannot leave my house without doing my bed, for example. It's something so simple, but it changes my day because I accomplished something. It's not about making the bed. It's about the accomplishment, the mindset of success,
Absolutely. It's big, man. Definitely. The way you do something's the way you do everything, right? Start it out. Absolutely.
Incredible. So 3 years. So now you were what, 21, 22?
Yeah, I got out. I was 20. Yeah, it was right before I turned 22 is when I got out. And so then I just wanted to be in business. I was blessed with, my father was killed actually while I was in the military. And so that, I just knew I was never going back to that life or different things. I struggled with drugs and alcohol after that, but I didn't sell and all those types of things. But I I was blessed with two uncles that were entrepreneurs, and I got out of the Army, and it taught me discipline, but it also made me an entrepreneur. And I say that because military was all time and grade promotion. And if you and I are if you're a great soldier and I'm a crappy soldier, we got promoted at the same time. And that didn't work for me. I didn't understand why that was the case. So I was very, very fortunate that when I got out, I said, I got to get paid for performance. I got to get paid for what I do, how I do it. And so I knew I had to become an entrepreneur, and I just didn't have any idea how or what that meant. I didn't have any skill. I didn't want to start a trucking company, and that was the only skill I had. And so I just went to one of my uncles and said, give me any business book you've got. And I just started reading, and he introduced me to a realtor, and I said, bring me any business listing you've got. And he's bring me all these, what I call mom and pop donut shop businesses, where people call themselves entrepreneurs, but they own a bad job and they just happen to work for a lunatic who is them. And, and it's kind of one of those.
You just described me for the first 5 years of my business.
Right. Exactly. Me too. Absolutely. And one day he brought me a plumbing and drain cleaning company that was for sale. And I was 22 at the time, and the thing made $100,000 a year. I was like, cause I said, Mark, why are you bringing sewer drain? No. And he's like, just look at the books. And it was making $100,000 a year. And that was in 93. And I think I was making $7 an hour. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's all the money in the world. And I couldn't afford to buy that company, but I went, I didn't know there was money in that stuff. And we fast forward about a year later, and I had an opportunity to buy a small drain cleaning company, and I got started that way into the trades. And I had no business being in business. I hated it. I wasn't good with my hands. I was a bad technician, which also served me because it taught me that I had to focus on the business and hire better skilled labor than I was. And so that was where I began, and really just started my journey as an entrepreneur at 23 years old.
23. And and that lasted for a while, right? So you started right into trades.
Yeah, I went right into the trades, and I struggled the first several years, and I was very fortunate that I wasn't from the trades or family business, because I just wanted a business. So when I was struggling at it and not making any money, I was like, if I can't figure this out, I'm going to get out and go do something else. And so I almost left it because I couldn't figure it out. And I had somebody say, just be the best you can possibly be at it until you get out. And for our listeners today, they're like, okay, David, why'd you bring this guy on that there's no value in that? Of course you're going to do your best. I want you to challenge yourself and ask yourself, am I really doing my best, or am I doing enough? And I was doing enough, but I was not doing my best. And something triggered, and I said, okay, I'm going to get out of this, but I'm going to crush it until I get out. And that was 2 years in, and I ended up selling that business. After 24 years of ownership, I sold it to a long-term operations manager and helped graduate her and her family. And so once I got good at it and good as an operator and a leader, things fell into line. And it was like, hey, it's that old adage. I would have just got into another business and brought myself with me. And that one would have been miserable too, because it was all about me.
And you know what? I see that in a lot of starting up entrepreneurs. They don't put in the time or the best of them.
Yes.
It's okay to fail at a business if you gave it your all.
Yes.
If you gave it your all and you still fail, awesome. You learn a ton. You can pivot and do another business.
Absolutely.
But if you haven't, in your soul if you're still slacking off, right?
Exactly.
And that discipline part comes in too, right?
Yes.
If you give it your all, you fail, God bless your soul. Go look for another business. Now you know how to do it. Go look for something that will make you feel the entrepreneur you want to be, right?
Yes.
But you have to give it your all.
Absolutely.
And it's not easy, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You got to dig deep.
I remember that one of the reasons why I started my own business is because I was working 12-hour days, 11-hour days. Sometimes on the weekends, I'm like, fuck, I want to manage my own calendar. And then the first year of my business, I was doing 16 hours a day.
Yeah, you're like, that was
7 days a week.
Job. I didn't know I had a part-time job before. Exactly.
Exactly. But eventually that changes, isn't it? When you become the real entrepreneur, you're not the the one doing the work, but you hire your weaknesses, you start to delegate. Now I
Yes.
am free. My life, I am free. I can actually get to do whatever I want every single day of my life.
Yes. And I think that's an important point for our listeners to really get at right now, wherever you are in your own entrepreneur journey. A lot of us have a hard time breaking free, just like the name of this podcast, where because many of us started that way, where we did everything, a lot of times we bring that forward and we get to certain levels and maybe you're doing several million in revenue, but you're still operating from the mindset that you've either got to do it all, manage it all, see it all, approve it all, whatever it is. You're driving yourself crazy and you're robbing other people from stepping into their greatness as well. So I think it's important that you check your mindset wherever you are in your entrepreneur journey, because it's the old adage, what got you here won't get you there. And the way that you had to work those 16, 18-hour days, now if you're doing that and you have team, you're probably sacrificing your self-care at a level, and you're the product now as the leader in the business. And so you got to make sure you're spending that time taking care of you as much as anything else in the business.
And it's incredible because when you realize that you are your own blocker, right?
Yes.
But you're also the
Yes.
blocker of your employees and your
Absolutely.
customers. Once I
Yes.
moved myself from me, everything blossomed.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I was the roadblock. I'm like,
Yes.
what the fuck?
Yes.
And by the
Absolutely.
way, I grew exponentially
Right. Right.
because now I'm achieving through others, and I'm giving the privilege and the honors for people to become themselves
Yes.
and to fully express themselves with their best, the best of their skill sets, right?
Yes. And you had to have an ego breakthrough or breakdown or transcendence in order to do that. Because if you have an identity that it's all about you, you're not going to be able to allow that to happen, brother. And so with you being able to do whatever work you did in order to get out of your own way, that's the biggest thing to breaking free, is getting out of your way. But we don't see it because we're in it, right? I can't see my own eyes because I'm in it. And so it's the same deal in your business. And so a lot of people have a hard time because they have the identity. And I remember as a young entrepreneur in my early 30s, I ran a very successful plumbing, heating, air conditioning business. And I took a 6-month motorhome trip with who is now my wife. And we hopped in and we just met each other. And the best deal I ever closed in sales was selling her to quit her job and hit the road with me for 6 months after not knowing me very, very well. But you want to get to know somebody, spend 6 months in an RV and you'll figure it out. But all my mentors were like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And as I would do a speaking engagement about once a month back then. And people would go, man, I want to operate like you. I want to and I would say, hang on, no, don't, stop kidding yourself. No, you don't. Well, what do you mean? No, because I find some identity in the fact that I don't know the answer. You got to go to John. You got to go to Robin. You got to go to Sonia. I have no idea. That's my identity in the business, where others' identity is, oh yeah, I know exactly what, this happened. And that was, I don't know, we had the internet, but we certainly didn't have, Zoom and all the technology we have today, where, which can be a curse too by staying too connected to things. But check your identity with your businesses too, where, where are you finding value? Do you find value from serving others and having others, like you said, really step into themselves and their own ownership of a position? Like a lot of times we're afraid everybody wants to be the owner. No, they just want to own their own space. They want to own their own position. They don't want to own everything. If they did, they'd go do that. It's a fear that many of us hang on to that's unnecessary.
Incredible. Such value in knowledge. We are going to raise the standard, brother, for sure.
Yes.
Now, 25 years in business, that's what you had until you sold it?
Yeah. I sold it in 24 years. Yep.
So I've been in business for 16 years and now almost been bankrupt 4 times. Tell me about, have you experienced like situations where you were like, I don't know how am I going to get out of this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Multiple times, as you said. Like, first one, when I was a sole proprietor before I transitioned over to be a corporation, I got served with a tax liability that I didn't understand because I didn't know what I was doing. So that was a big one. Really, really hit me. And then more recently, even the last recession in 2008, 9, I was in a place where I was fairly leveraged and I had plenty of cash flow, but I wasn't in a good economic independent place. And so we had a pretty big scare to the point of I can remember where I was with the lovely Christy, and we were driving down the road, and she had our personal budget out and the business budget, and we were kind of counting, going backwards as to how long are we going to float this boat? What's this going to look like, type of a deal. And and as we know, that if you look at things as learning experiences, even when they're challenging in them, now I've been saying for 4 years we should be in a recession, or we should be having something happen of a pullback of some sort, even if whether we're on the verge of that now or not, whatever happens, I'm better positioned because I got the opportunity to go through that. And I think that as an entrepreneur, it's we want things to be smooth and predictable, and yet as the human brain, we crave uncertainty almost at an equal amount as we crave certainty. And that's one of the challenges as entrepreneurs. And one of our friends and mentors, Dan Sullivan, likes to say that there's nothing more dangerous than a bored entrepreneur. And I think that shows up in a lot of different ways. And sometimes if you haven't fixed your money relationship, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you will find a way to wreck it. It's just it's a core belief or a challenge that you have. So all the gifts are show up in different lessons that we need at the time, and hopefully we take the lesson.
That's a great point. What's your relationship with money?
Mine personally, it's a
Do you think
tool.
money is,
I don't think of money anything other than a pair of pliers in a toolbox. To me, I just don't have, which took me a long time. I used to, I struggled. I was raised in a very Christian household. I said my dad was an outlaw biker. My mom was a fundamentalist Christian, and I landed somewhere like, not sure how that all happened, but
talk about duality. Oh my God.
right. Exactly. That was my thing. So I was kind of raised with the what I'll say is the misconception from the Bible that that money's the money's bad, and even the verse says it's the root of evil. But we could belabor that all day long. But I was raised with a limiting belief around money, and that rich people were bad, and taking away, and scarcity mindset and all those things. And then as I learned and I grew, now it's literally, it's no different than anything else. If you barter, if you have, something that I want, if we trade, any of that stuff, it's just simply a tool. And I think people are going to see that more as crypto comes on the scene more and more, and as things, what we thought about money is beginning to change before our eyes. What a gift to be alive during this time in history, to get to explore new things. But yeah, I think money's a gift that we can do great things with. That's all it's there for, is to help improve people's lives.
It's just a tool. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like people put, like, I used to put my identity in money.
Yeah.
So that if I had a lot, I felt like I was a lot. If I
Yes.
had none, I felt like I was none.
Yes.
And that's the worst thing you can do, because that mentality will screw you over 100 times over, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now I
Yes.
realize that, money, like you said, is just a tool to exchange goods and services. And that's it. It's just a tool like any other toolbox.
Yeah, exactly.
And I also know that it's unlimited.
Yes. Yes. That's
Money is
big.
unlimited, and it's absolutely abundant, because it's the
Yes.
concept of exchanging goods and services. So as long as there's people in the world, there's going to be money.
That's right. 100%. Yes. Yes. I love that, brother. That's so true. So true. Man, what a great perspective.
So when you sold your business, Did you go and drink margaritas for like 6 months or something, or what did you do? Did you take a break?
No, you know what's funny is it was simply a passion play. I had already launched the Blue Collar Success Group about 6 years prior to that, so I had the two companies already, and I just it was time for my ops manager. She hadn't owned, but she had run that business for me for quite some time, and it was just time to graduate her. And I didn't have my passion for it at the level that I believe I want to have for businesses that I own. And so I sold it to her and just dumped myself even deeper into the Blue Collar Success Group, and just kept on rocking and rolling. I don't, I don't really, I believe in setting up businesses to where they, if I want to go drink margaritas for 6 months, I don't have to sell a business to do that. I'll just go do that, because that's how I want my
Yes.
life. That's how I want my life to work. If you got to sell your business to do that, you better check how you're operating your business.
Because you're not doing the right thing. You're still trapped. That's why it's called break free. Like
That's right.
I thought I was breaking out of corporate jail, which is the name of my book, by the way, because I felt trapped. I make myself a jail in my corporation, in the corporate world, just to go into my business and create even a stronger, bigger jail.
Right.
It almost took my life to break through,
Yes. That's absolutely.
So what's your second business about?
It's about really, we coach and train in the skill trades. So plumbing, heating, air, electrical service businesses, which is what I owned. And I got good at it. And then I was able to build a team of coaches here at Blue Collar that get to help with all the, the operations and the finance and the marketing and the sales and all that type of stuff, to where now I get to work on, really being able to disrupt the dialogue in people's minds, and what, help really understand. I've got a new book dropping, that's called the Blue Collar Leadership Laws. And I really focus on where you are in your mindset. And so, we at Blue Collar, we teach you everything about running a successful contracting business. That's what we do. But I personally get the opportunity to spend my time with high level thinkers that might know what to do, or why aren't they using our tools, or what's in the way. And it always comes down to limiting belief, lack of self-image, challenges that we're manifesting with our mind, the monkey mind, the ADHD that all of us have. Like, you might as well take away the label, because everybody's got it. It's, you just start pouring into journaling and meditating and really slowing down the conversation that's going on in your head. So though I work in the trades, I spend all of my time helping improve human behavior and human performance.
It's beautiful. And that's exactly what my calling is now. That's why I'm doing this, Let's talk about consciousness. How do you tap into meditation and start, increasing your level of consciousness?
Yeah, for me, it was I tried all kinds of different things, all kinds of different ways. And then for me, it was finally calling the ball on the last addictions that I held in my life. I was addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to marijuana. And when I made the decision to leave those behind, I had a coach that just told me it's a non-negotiable. Like, if you want to do this, you've got to go in. And I started, and I haven't missed a day since. And I just literally, several years now, it's every day, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, to just lean into being the observer of what's really going on. And I, if I if they call it in the addiction world, cross addiction, if I cross addicted to anything, it's my own, observing myself and learning about myself and raising my conscience. I'm addicted to that shit, brother.
Beautiful. Dude, like, everybody needs to be addicted to that, for sure.
Right. But I have massive compassion and empathy for people that try. Cause again, I used to, there were more ways to be wrong at meditation. Oh, I can't sit in lotus. I've got stocky legs. I can't sit right. I can't breathe right. My mind goes, it's not about any of that. It's about the act of getting on the pillow or laying down or whatever it is, for however instructors teach in their particular way, but there's more ways to win at meditating than there is not. And if you've tried and you've stopped, that's fine. That's part of it. There's a reason they call yoga practice. There's a reason it's meditation practice. Some days are going to be, quote, better than others, but you're always going to get what you need every single time you slow that mind down.
It's funny, last night we were like, my wife told me, let's go meditate. So we have our own, we call it the monastery, but it's really where we have like a little gym with, some space for dancing and stuff in the house. Thanks to COVID, we had to build that room.
Yeah, right.
So we also use it as the monastery. We meditate.
Nice.
And so my wife said last night, you know what, let's go meditate for half an hour. So I asked my daughter if she wanted to come. She's back home for a while now because of COVID. And so we went. But as soon as she came into the room, she said, how long is this going to take? And I'm like, I don't know, 30 minutes. And then she really struggled for the 30 minutes because like she wasn't into the meditation mode. But at the end, when she woke up out of it, she's like, you know what? There is no such thing as bad meditation. Like the fact that you sat there and you control your body and your urges to live and to move and to get distracted, the fact that you were bringing back your thoughts to yourself and you finished it, that's a huge success.
It is huge.
Right?
Yes. And just think about the collective conditioning that goes into that question, because we're programmed to think about what's next. We're programmed to try to get to the next thing, the next future. So what an innocent question from her that represents collective agreement with, well, hang on, what's this? Because I need to go fill in the blank of whatever it is, rather than being present, being in the moment. And that's all you ever have. The future never has happened and it never will happen. It only happens in the present moment. And we are just addicted to the future, and we're addicted to suffering. So we're constantly looking and going. And so, bless her heart, that's amazing that she sat there and was able to have that experience, and that was my thing too. When I first started, like, oh my gosh, I don't know how long I can go, or this. That's fine. Start with 5 minutes. Like it doesn't matter. There's no scorekeeping. There's no gold medal of meditation. That's not the point. The gold medal gets handed every time you sit and slow your mind down. That's it. Yeah. Every time.
And awesome. If a good word of advice, I am a hyperactive person. Like I'm always moving. I cannot keep my body slowing down. Like I walk when I'm working, for example, right?
Yeah.
So what I did when I decided to learn how to meditate, by the way, you know why I started meditating?
Why?
In 2013, I started looking for billionaires and I started researching their lives. And the pattern came again. Every billionaire that I researched was a meditator. So I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna learn how to meditate.
Yeah. And think, so think about that. Because if they have the time, then how do I not have the time? What story am I kidding myself about? Right?
But for somebody that was as anxious as I was and so full of energy, what I will do is I will work out at the gym very heavily for an hour and a half. And then after that, I will go into a very hot sauna and I could finally close my eyes for 5 minutes. That's how I started, because I tried without that. And like 1 minute in, I couldn't be inside myself. It was
right.
Sometimes we're so afraid of what we're going to find inside that we try to avoid it.
Yes.
Without knowing that what is inside is all you ever need and want.
Yes, absolutely. Right? Yes. I think in the West, I think we're at the tail end of it, possibly with hopefully a restructure of higher education. But I think that we are educating ourselves out of intuition. And so I think if I need a book, I need to go read something. No, you don't. You've got everything you need. You need to go inside. You need to pay attention. You go in a bookstore, there's 1,000 books on for a young mother that's carrying a baby, on what to do, how to go. We've been having kids for thousands of years. You don't need a book. Inside. It's called, there's a maternal instinct that exists, but we're taught that I've got to go educate myself. And so that's challenge. It's a paradigm that we need to really look at and start to break. And to your point, it's hard at the beginning for many of us because It's our programming. Our subconscious is just doing the job that we taught it how to do. And that's go, 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 go. And so when we start changing that, it goes, hang on, wait a minute. I'm not used to this. And now I bet if you skip 2 or 3 days without meditating, your subconscious is going, hang on, dude, what the hell? I need this. Like, it's just, the subconscious is the same. It doesn't care whether I'm meditating or smoking a joint. It just does what I programmed it to do. And now I meditate instead of hitting the bong. I'm still the same person doing what I do.
It's completely true, brother. It's amazing. My God. I want to just keep talking to you all afternoon, but I want to be very respectful of your time. By the way, thank you. There is something that I can never repay you, and it's your time. Everything else I can pay you back, but your time, once you spend it, it's gone forever. And you're being such a beautiful soul, dedicating yourself to us. Thank you so much, brother. I'm going to ask you one last question. If you had access to a billboard in the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
That's a great question. I love it. And I'll just answer it off the top of my head. I would say I would just put, wake up, go inside.
That's amazing. Can you explain that? I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I want my audience to know.
Yeah, I think, for listeners, what I mean by that is that, we often, and a lot of times entrepreneurs, we struggle with sleep or this or that, or we have dreams, and what we're living is an unconscious dream. And I think that when you're awake and you realize it, you get to your office, you drive the same route, you get to your office and like, I don't know how many stoplights I stopped at. I don't know who I might've blown the horn at. Like you're just living unconsciously so much. And so I think that we're just taught to go, 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 look outside, learn, all these things. And what I mean by that is just wake up from the dream that you're executing on a daily basis. What are you doing and why are you doing it? Slow down, go inside, get connected back to your core, back to your root, back to your divine connection, and really understand what's making you tick. Because guess what? We're all going to die at some point of put that in air quotes, but that, we're going to leave the human experience at some point. And so what? Are you going to leave with more, letters behind your name? Are you going to leave with more dollars in your bank account? Or are you going to leave with more fulfillment? And you can have fulfillment with letters in your name and bank account exploding for sure, but just make sure that you're doing what you're doing from an awakened state, aware, consciously choosing what you want, and everything in your life and those around you will improve.
That's so well said. And you reminded me of something I learned a couple of weeks ago. Everything that you own, everything that you have will stay behind. Yes. But everything that you become, you take that shit with you.
Yes, yes.
Good or bad.
I love it, brother. Absolutely.
It was a true pleasure to have you. If people need to want to contact you, or they want to read your book, or learn about your coaching, where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place to go is leadershipinanutshell.com. It's just leadershipinanutshell.com, and you'll find my podcast and my book stuff and whatever. But regardless, just thank you so much for having me here today and having a chance to share some energy with your listeners. And it's always a pleasure to connect with you, brother. I love you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to close the podcast with something that I just learned too, that is incredible. I've been doing this for the last 2 weeks and it's changing my life. Brother, I see you, I honor you, and I love you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
Cheers.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.